What are the ideal positions of a player in defense? That's the question the thousands of volleyball players are looking for an answer to. Wondering where to stand in the court when the middle blocker is attacking, where should I be when the opposite attacks after a high set? These are not only the questions I answer in this video. I have played in 3 world championships and I must admit that I have always been a better attacker rather than a defensive player. And I have often admired and sometimes even disbelieved my own eyes what the Japanese team can do on defense, for example, or how well organized the Italian national team's defense and block are. And I'm sure that you also want to play very good defense in field and get closer to professional players. You know yourself that modern volleyball is a fast and dynamic game where defense play a key role in the success of the team. And what about the ideal position of players on defense? If someone tells you it's standing there and there, they are wrong. There is no one place fits all positioning in defense. Each team must find a system that best suits its style of play and the abilities of its players. And in this video, we'll look at different types of defensive positions and principles that depend on the type of incoming attack, the attacking player, the block, and the quality of the defenders. We'll also go over what positions to stand in against the blocker's attacks after quick set to the outside hitter, and how to defend high sets and out-of-system attacks. But defense isn't just about where you defend. You need several elements to your successful defense, and most importantly, you must not make basic mistakes, which I will now describe. Body positioning. The attacks and hits that are directed at you on defense fly well over 100 km per hour in professional volleyball. You are standing 6 to 9 meters away from the attacker, so you have very little time to react to the ball. And if you stand on your stretched legs, your body back or your feet together, you have no chance of playing good defense. The key to defense is a body position that allows the player to reach and move quickly. The ideal stance includes a low center of gravity, knees slightly bent to allow the player to move quickly to either side, body slightly bent forward. Center of gravity is on the front of the feet, hands in front of the body, ready to react. The hands should be relaxed in a neutral position so that they can easily reach towards the ball, which can go down or overhead. And keep your fingers spread, so you can play the ball reflexively with one hand if you don't have time. Reading the game and anticipating. There are hundreds of different situations in a match, many easy, free, but also difficult balls. Some balls will bounce unexpectedly off the block or of the teammate. Therefore, you cannot wait for one type of a ball in defense and one type of attack. You cannot expect the ball to hit you exactly where you stand, ideally in the bump. You can't just stand like you are nailed to the one spot every time. Not only the top liberos who are masters at working on defense know that you have to read the opponent's game well and anticipate where the offense is going to go. This includes watching the approach, position and movement of the attacker, knowing the opposing team's offensive combinations. What can they play now? Do they have a good reception? Did their outside hitter made 3 errors on attack a while ago? Quickly analyze the block position, which affects where the attacker can probably attack the ball. Quick and efficient movement. As I mentioned earlier, there is no one-size-fits-all spot for every player in the defensive field. Also, you can't move slowly on stretched feet because if the opponent has a good reception, their setter will play quick sets to all attackers and you need to be able to react in less than 1 second. Therefore, your movement around the field must be efficient, which means quick reactions and moves into position. Players must move quickly using short side steps or cross step when moving over longer distance. Maintain a low stance to maintain balance. Always be ready to go after the ball. A tip or a touched ball on block, especially if the opponent is in system situation where they can attack quickly and unexpectedly. Defensive technique and the ball handling. And then there are the ball handling mistakes in defense. I know a lot of players who are like concrete in defense. Their whole body is in spasm. Or there are players who are afraid of a fast-flying ball on defense. It's just that good ball technique is key to good defense. Otherwise, you can do everything right, but if balls bounce off you like a baseball when you hit it, your defensive work will be lousy. Every player needs to be prepared for different types of hits, including hard attacks and technical balls. You need to use your whole body to absorb the force of the ball, not just your hands. Contact with the ball should be fluid and controlled so that the passing is accurate as possible and the team can follow up with an attack. Keeping your hands steady and pointing up, not forward, so that the ball bounces up from you, ideally to the setter or high up to the middle of the court when the real bomb is coming at you. Communication and team coordination. And when defending, it's similar to other skills. If you keep quiet, wait to see what happens, don't communicate with other players, then again your chance of doing a decent job in defense are pretty small. No player is alone in defending in the field. Quality defense requires constant communication with other players because a lot of balls will not come at you at high speed, but also your opponent will give you free balls, tips and power tips. So communication between players needs to be clear, especially when deciding who will play the ball. Players must support each other and shout me or mine at the balls they intend to play. Coordination and agreement with the block is also essential. Defenders need to know how the block works, what direction of attacks the blockers will be blocking, so they can react correctly to balls that fly beside the block or are touched by block. These were 5 basic mistakes that you shouldn't do when defending, but there are much more mistakes you shouldn't do. In fact, I have made a free guide for you about 25 mistakes you should avoid. You can download it for free. And before we go into basic principles of defense, I want to recommend you our great online course by famous Argentinian coach Javier Weber, who is currently in charge of the US national team's defensive work. His insight and opinions will definitely help you defend better in the field. But let's now move on to the basic defensive principles you should apply. Defense in volleyball always starts from understanding a few key factors that determine how we will defend as a team or as a single player on defense. Type of attack and set. What kind of set we can now expect? Will it be a high set from court, a quick attack from a middle blocker, pipe or a bump set 3 meters from the net? We should react to each of these types of sets and attacks and move into our position in defense. Attacker. Who is attacking? Is the opposite player prepared for the attack with a hard hit? Or can I expect more technical attack against a triple block? I need to analyze well and anticipate what type and strength of attack may come at me to the field. Block. What about our block? Do we have a high triple block against an outside hitter attack? Or do we have a smaller setter alone on the block in zone 2? Also, the block and its quality and positioning plays a very important role for the players on defense. And for example, the Japanese national team has a great system where they have a small setter on the block and still they are able to defend a lot of balls in defense. Defensive player. Last but not least, our defense also depends on the quality of our defensive player. Sure, liberos should be great at defending all balls, but that is not enough. Setters, outside hitters, opposite and even middle blockers need to have a high level of defensive skills as well. Each of these situations and principles requires a different approach to defense. We will now look at how these elements are applied in practice and how professional players and teams respond to them. But first, you need to know what starting position you should stand in and then move from that position. Players at the net are ready for the block. The player in zone 1 stands 1 or 2 meters behind the 3-meter line, approximately 3 meters from the sideline. The player in zone 5 is in similar position, only the player in zone 6 is more in the court, approximately 5 to 6 meters from the net. You should be in these starting positions immediately after opponent received your serve, especially if the opponent has a good reception high to the net and the setter can dump the ball. If the received ball is further from the net, you can already move to other position based on possible incoming attack. Defending after a middle blocker attack. When a middle blocker is attacking, the defense must react very quickly. We don't have time to move for a longer distance. Our blocker, if he has read the situation well, will jump up and try to block the blocker's attack. The player in zone 1 has a position when the opponent has an excellent reception where he should be 2 to 3 meters in the field, between 4 and 6 meters from the net, facing a possible incoming attack. He must be in very low position and able to react quickly to the attack. The player in zone 6 is positioned opposite the direction of the attacker's approach in the middle of the field. This player stands a little further back in the field to be able to react not only for direct attack but also to a possible touched ball and run after the ball. The libero in zone 5 plays a key role, standing in the field similar to the player in zone 2, defending the diagonal attacks of the blockers that are most common. Of course, he reacts to touches of the ball on the block or any non-standard hits. Also, the players at the net in zone 4 or 2 are involved in the defense, either helping on the block or being responsible for the short tip behind the block. It's important to anticipate the direction of the hit well. Blockers are more likely to attack in the direction of the approach, either attacking very quickly or trying to play technically and change the direction of the attack with only their hands, especially if they see a high block in front of them, defending after a fast attack by an outside hitter. You know it yourself, outside hitters have a huge range of attack types, from hard attacks to technical hits. In the vast majority of cases, there is at least one player against the outside hitter when he attacks after a good reception, or blocker arrives on the block but fails to form a compact double block. The outside hitter defending in zone 6 should have stood more in the field to see the ball because we don't have a good double block against the incoming attack. He should be moved slightly diagonal, but in no way should be standing in front of the libero in zone 5. A setter or opposite standing at the line in zone 1 should expect a hard hit down the line in most cases. They don't need to have their right foot directly on the line, but a dozen of inches away from the line, so that they can also defend and attack directly down the line, but most of the attacks down the line are directed a meter or 2 from the line. Few, even professional players, hit directly on the line 5 times in a match. It's good to keep the right foot slightly in front so that if they are defending, their body is facing to the field, which is where the defended ball should be. The libero, on the other hand, has to sacrifice himself in this situation, position himself more forward diagonally and try to take the hit in any way possible. Because most good outside hitters after a quick set choose to attack diagonally. They don't go straight to 3 meters from the net, but rather in front of the 7 meter in the field. Then we have the blocker in the zone 3, who most likely did not have chance to jump on the block. If he doesn't jump, he is responsible for the short tip behind the block. And the player in zone 4 takes a step or 2 into the defense and defends a sharp diagonal. Defense after a quick opposite attack. Here it's similar to the quick attacks of outside hitter. Opposite, if he has a single block against him, has plenty of room to attack. The vast majority of opposite are right-handed, and this affects the direction of their attacks from zone 2. They don't attack as sharp diagonals as outside hitters from zone 4. Outside hitter in zone 6 again steps slightly into diagonal and expect a direct hard hit. The player in zone 1 is more in the court and is waiting for the diagonal hit. Libero, the team's best defender, is trying to defend the attack down the line. He's not standing with his left foot on the line and should have his left foot slightly in front so that hits bounce of him into the court as well. Similar to the quick attacks of the outside hitter, the blocker has trouble reaching a compact block. So if he's not on the block, he must take any tip falling within 3 meters of the block. Also, the player in zone 2 will quickly step back to the 3 meter line to defend a possible hit to the sharp diagonal, defending after high sets from the field. If you are in a situation where you are facing a high sets from the field, you have a great chance to defend this attack. First, your block will be compact, usually at least a double block, but also often a triple block that covers most of the field. Second, you have plenty of time to read the intent of attacking player as to where he is going to hit. Outside hitter in zone 6 now stays a long way away, at least 8 meters from the net, but sometimes even behind the court, because a lot of players choose to attack hard to the fingertips, and these balls are just his job. He should be slightly off diagonal here as well, although if there is a small setter on the block, he will move behind him closer to zone 1. No hard attack down the line should come at the player in zone 1, as the vast majority of pro and league teams don't let the attacker hit down the line from high sets. His job is tips, technical hits, bouncing ball of the block out of the court. Libero in zone 5 needs to read the play well. If he sees that the outside hitter has an opportunity to hit this side to the block on the diagonal, he will stand here. But if he expects that the hitter won't get to the diagonal, he stands deeper in the court and waits to defend a longer diagonal, a bounce ball to the diagonal, or a tip to the middle of the field. It's similar when opposite attacks from the high ball. But here the block no longer completely blocks his attacks down the line because there is a libero in zone 5 who is a defensive specialist. Of course, when there is a blocker in zone 5 on the defense, the block closes the line. The player in zone 6 rotates slightly to zone 1. The player in zone 1 reads the play and stands either next to the block or on a long diagonal. The libero is defending a hard hit down the line and tip behind the block. I could go on and on about other situations, how stand after the attack from the pipe, how to defend opposite attack from 3-meter line, and even at specific of smaller or powerful outside hitters. Different types of attacks by middle blockers attacking the down by setter, but the goal of this video was to show you the basic principles against the basic types of attacks. Anyway, remember that in defense it's important to be constantly aware, read the game, and adapt to different types of attacks. There is no one right solution, but it's important to coordinate the whole team, react quickly to changes, and be prepared for any situation. This is the key to successful defense in volleyball. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.